Succession, to continue on. Succession, to follow in order. Succession, to keep the sequence. Succession, to carry into the future. The time yet to come. A succession plan. Have you ever thought of one? Do you have one? Who will assume the space left empty when a kūpuna passes? Assumably, there will be one to succeed, right? Kūpuna. Those who have lived in a time before you and I, whose lives may have intersected with ours for a time. Those who were willing to struggle, who survived and knew hard work, whose hands became molded solid by the work they did, whose backs could withstand the weight of hardship. Simple lives they lived, really no room for excess. Productivity of necessities lay in their capable hands. Who will take their place? Who will tell their stories? Who will take their ike forward? Who will share their experiences? Who even cares? Do you?
I was raised in Keaukaha. I think it was one of the most formative parts of my life. The people, everybody was just like one family. Same ideas, same food. Most of them had the same occupation. Live off the land, the ocean, the beach. I felt real fortunate because I had grandparents that lived on the beach, and my young years, I spent most of my time at the beach with them, fishing. It was about maybe from 8 till about 14. I learned a lot. I learned most of what my life was all about was what I learned from my grandparents. Discipline, respect. Respect for the land, respect for the ocean. Unbelievable. Then go with the flow. So you get caught in the high seas, big waves, rough oceans. And he's on shore telling me, and I was about 12 years old, I remember. He said to me, don't come back, swim out. And a huge wave just pounding, sucking me out. And he kept motioning to me, go, 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 go out. So I let the ocean take me there. Go, Bombay, I get you. The old man rolling his Bull Durham cigarettes, smoking his cigarette and watching me get sucked out to sea. And he's just motioning me, go, just go. About half hour later, he's on about a half mile away on the shore, smoking his cigarette and watching me. And here comes the ocean, bringing me back in. And he's just waving me in, come on, come in, come in. And the same ocean that took me out brought me back. The ocean never take you. Don't try to come back to the same place. Go. He's going to bring you back someplace else. But he'll bring you back. And it was so amazing. And from that day on, I wasn't afraid of the ocean. I just knew, you know, you just go. Something's going to take care of you. I kind of look familiar.
Thank you.
This is how the girl gave me this place. As I grew up in Keaukaha, the funniest thing is our house was the only house was faced east and west. Most of the homes were north and south in the Keaukaha subdivision. And I didn't know why, but my dad built a house there. And every morning you got up, you look at this huge mountain, Mauna Kea. And I always told myself, wow, look at that mountain. In the morning, it was real nice and bright orange. In the evening, the mountain turned purple. And every day, you saw the same thing, except when it rained, which was quite often anyway. But my mind was on that mountain, all the landmarks and everything. So I told myself, someday I'm going to be up there, not knowing that it would almost be my home. The guy graduated Hilo High School, and right after high school, it was 1950. The Korean War broke out. No more jobs, Hilo. 18 years old, I think, over that time. The Marine Corps opened a recruiting office in Hilo. I joined the Marine Corps. A few of us from Hilo. The funny thing is all Hawaiians. They joined the Marine Corps, not knowing what we were going to get into. The thing I learned was discipline. It was so amazing how they took a whole bunch of strangers and in 8 weeks made them think like one person. I was so impressed with the way the Marine Corps trained people. And the first thing that came to my mind is what they said. We're going to teach you something. We're going to teach you how to learn. You better learn now. Tomorrow is too late. We don't want you to learn tomorrow. Too late. You learn today. And I never forgot that till today, how effective it was. And I think most of it probably controlled my whole life. I paddled with one of the top canoe clubs that year when I got to Honolulu, the Kealia Canoe Club, one of the oldest canoe clubs. And it wasn't something you just walked on and you paddled. You were invited. But it doesn't mean you got a seat on a canoe. It meant you were invited to try out. I sat on the beach for 2 weeks, never got in a canoe. Until one day, the steersman of one of the crews never showed up. And the coach asked me, hey, you know how to steer? Oh yeah, I know. Get in there, steer that canoe. And I never lost my seat till today. Some 70 years later, never lost my seat because I knew what it took, what he had to do, what he had to accomplish. Anyway, I paddled for Kealia. Good. Then I paddled for a couple of other clubs in Honolulu, Waikiki Surf. All good clubs, good people. And I learned a lot about canoe racing. And I learned about the respect the people gave you down there. The fire captain at Waimea was Charlie Rose. Then one day he approached me. There would be an outstanding program for Waimea. Tell me they want me to coach the club. The physical part of the club I handled. The Quiet Canoe Club was formed 50 years ago. And it took off like a house on fire.
He was my dad, first and foremost. But when we were down here, he wasn't my dad. He was my coach. He told us that if we weren't treated the same down here as everybody else, then he would have a hard time coaching. And that we understood. So we became like any other paddler. That taught me that he really loved us, you know? Otherwise, he wouldn't care. Like, if he came down here and he yelled at us in front of everybody, he wouldn't care, you know, but he cared.
The first year of competition, Kauai was virtually unbeatable, training all these young kids. The whole Waimea town closed down on Saturdays when there's a canoe race. And the people just responded unbelievably. 4 generations have come through this club already. Little different, same people, same families, but yeah, 4 generations have come through. I've seen them all.
Stern, he'll tell it like it is, but he's fair with them. And it's so neat when you come down and he's asking a question and they'll go, yes, sir. You know, his military background, being a fireman. They always look up to him.
There's always going to be people that don't agree, of course, but the ones that do and respect him, they always come back and they always tell him what a difference that he's made in their lives. And some didn't even know it until later on in life. You know, the ones that he was really hard on, and some of them not here anymore. You know, before they passed on, they reached out to him.
I first walked up here about 40 years ago. Then the past 10 years, very often. Nobody, I'm alone, no cars, no nothing, no human beings, only me.
The reason why he came back here was because of his passion, which is Mauna Kea.
You hear a lot of people talk about the mountain and stuff like that. They never saw the mountain. They think they know Mauna Kea. They don't know. I've seen what nobody will ever see. A lot of it is being covered already by cinders, windstorms. It's still there. But you guys just gotta know. I go up to Poʻe. Poʻe is my favorite spot. I used to go up the mountain before they had a road. This was in the 50s, late 50s. They opened up sheep hunting. And we used to walk to Lake Waiʻa from Halepuaku. The road ended there. It was only the trail, the Humula Trail. You walk all the way up, walk to the summit. And then you became accustomed to the silence. What I loved about it, you stayed up there a whole week. Then in the backcountry in the mountain. Sometimes you cannot come out because you fogged in for 2 or 3 days. And no place to go except walk. And you learn how to exist in a wild country like that. In the fog, knowing just by looking at the grass where you were, just by looking at grass. You can't see anything else, only the ground. Your senses became just like the animals, just like the wild animals. Sheep, goat, pig, the nene. And you could sense the animal, you could feel them, you could hear. You became so acute, your senses are different. And I love being there. I love the loneliness. One thing you gotta understand, it wasn't all roses, A lot of hard times too, real hard times. Wasn't easy. It's not only the good, you get a lot of bad spots. If anybody had bad sides, I had a lot of them. But you gotta overcome all that. It's you, how you look at it.
He's always been the guiding rock for me, the guiding light. He's taught me that if you're gonna do something, go for it, but also do it right the first time. He has always told us, don't give up. He is such a big part of everyone's lives.
I keep coming back to the same word, so I guess it's humble. He doesn't like to flaunt. He'd rather stay in the background. But yet he knows how to get things done. He knows what he wants to do. He knows where he's headed. That's just my father.
Living in this kind of place, you there's no other alternative but learn how to fish in. Not only one type, there's so many different ways. My uncles, they used to make their own hooks and make their own knives. I just couldn't believe, I go pillow with them or whatever, fishing they do. The way they do things and magnificent, whatever they did. So I took it serious.
Miloli'i still is kind of like a blast in the past already because of our isolation. His parents specifically, and even his grandparents and grandmother guys were very influential in the community. Our ohana, they could weave, they could do all kind of different crafts, lauhala medicine. They were, they had all kind of different things, but we tried to keep a lot of the practices going, which pertain mainly around fishing.
A lot of fish, a lot of pihi. The waʻa was loaded. We come home like 5-10 tubs. My uncle used to go with his bamboo pole, scoop the waʻa. That's how I learned to dive, actually. He would pile up all the waʻa and then he smash them. Then the fish all came down and I dive in the water to shoot. It was loaded. I think the pillow industry is the biggest industry as far as growing up in Miloli'i. It was in ahi, it was in main pachi, it was in bottom fish. Like the old things, I can remember that our parents was always talking about moon calendars, for fishing, yeah? I never think it was that important, but I realized now, it's good and old, it was making sense. The moon, flowers and stuff like that, it helps you know that what's going to happen soon. Know when the waʻa's going to be fat, or the pihi be ready. These Hawaiians had everything down, Man, the boats used to come in with a lot of fish, A lot of fish.
When I was growing up in the early 80s, 90s, it was in that transitional growth time. A lot of people were coming in and the rest of the state was moving ahead, but Miloli'i was still trying to be a place that is rooted deep in culture and histories.
When I first came home, all my friends was complaining about the Opelo thing. These guys was broken the rules, and I was thinking, how am I gonna get this thing straightened up, yeah? So I got involved and they say, hey, we have certain condition in the village that we want to uphold to fish in that way from the kūpunas. So what can you guys do to help us, without fighting, I kind of felt like, wow, my place was getting invaded, you know what I mean? There was going to be a huge marina about 10 miles down the village, and I jumped on it with all my other friends and just stop it, And then I'm glad I did that, you know what I mean? Because we had that marina by us, I think this village be all destroyed, yeah? It was going to put 400 boats. And Senator Inouye had recognized what I did. He sent me to Washington and gave me that recognition of preserving to establish like a national thing. When you get some things that it's not right, you got to make it right,
Was something that could have progressed this southern community, more opportunities. But at that time in the 80s, he saw already the destruction of so much Western influence and external pressure to eventually destroy a lot of our ways of life. We're able to overcome that. Then he was able to help get all these homes for the ohana so that we can still have a connection to this place. And in the last 10 to 15 years, he worked really hard to stop other issues that are close to his heart. Specifically, he sued the state when it came to protection of our reefs, so that we didn't want any more people to collect aquarium fish for the tanks. And that was a huge accomplishment for him. And then we had the governor of Hawaii come in and sign a community-based subsistence fishing area. So he's been the kūpuna behind the scenes, always encouraging us, and so happy that we finally got to do what he always wanted to do, which is take care of this place so that it can continue to help the next generation, the future that will carry on that kuleana.
You know, times is changing, and we only can educate our kids or talk about the kūpunas and see the kids that can carry on, you know, how willing for they want to practice and retain that, yeah? One day I went down there to his school, and this boy had lunch break. He gone to his car, got his throw net, and he went go throw net, came back about 1 dozen of this kind. Oh. I said, Kim, you better give him 2 A's. Because look at this, on his lunch break, he getting look. You know, I was shocked, you know, to see this small boy, you know, I go, God, man, he's gonna get it done. He's already, you know, developing that to what he can do, because he watched his uncles, he watched everything, and now he's doing it. So how can go wrong? There's some future that ahead of us, and we're going to bring the people closer to know that what we're striving to. We want to retain the value of the fish. We don't want to destroy it. It's time, I think, everybody, wherever you're at, you know, it's time to wake up. Don't wait when it's all gone.
We are in a time of so much change, I think even more than ever, and I just hope that the people of Hawaii look at the work we do as a model for them to stand up for their places. That opelo fishing is iconic fishing for Miloli'i, but it really is more than just that. Like, it is part of who we are. It's an extension of our ohana. So we can look 10, 20 years down the road and see that it'll feed our families, it'll teach our next generation, and it will really help our lahui to thrive.
My lifestyle growing up in Kealia, most people know the place as Kahalu. That was my grandmother's aupua'a, Esther Kukahiko, yeah. She is original from the Big Island. We grew up in the ocean, yeah. Walking from baby time, from first, second grade up to we got to adults. That was a great time, making emo all the time. You know, our young kids, when we was younger, that was our job for clean the emo, yeah. The job for make the emo was our dad, them, our uncles, and there's all time to learn how to do that type of work, yeah. And it's not one time a year. That was like every other week we doing that work, emo, yeah. Catching turtle, yeah. Turtle was the main meat for us, yeah. So people, if you know about the lifestyle of living in Hawaii, never had cows, never had cattle around. Yeah, we barely had cattle or pigs, yeah? But our main meat was the turtle. One big turtle, maybe a week, because you know how much kids in a family, yeah? And there was only that family, Aviaos, Kukahiko, Pakele, yeah, Manuia, yeah? That was our family line.
Some crazy things is, if you look in his van, he has like 2 medals hanging from his rear view. One is the Molokai Ihoi gold medal, and that's from when he was, I think, in his 20s, maybe 21. He was the youngest man to ever paddle Molokai. I think he was 12, and you're supposed to be 13 to enter. So he was 12 years old. Him and my uncles were all 12, and it's like a cultural battle between us and the Samoans, Polynesians, and Maori, who's the king of the ocean, because that's kind of like our history and how we got here. So if you can be the best in that, then hey, you lead the Polynesians, and if you lead the Polynesians in voyaging in waʻa, you lead human exploration. That's kind of like a title in history that I think is super cool that my dad got. And so he got involved with my uncle commercial diving for like center art pieces of big black coral. And those, you know, they start to grow at around 300 feet deep. And so he would, on the weekends, hook up a tank, jump in the water with my uncles and just go down deep. And they weren't using rebreathers, they were just using basic compressed air. They didn't know about mixed gas. They didn't have all the new high-tech stuff. And so all they had was a compressed air tank with a mask and a hammer, and they would go down there and chisel away at these beautiful pieces of coral. They were radical. Hey, people were paying $10,000 for these coral, and so if you can make $10,000 just by a 2-hour dive, you're gonna do it. This is when Hawaiians were suppressed. My dad was the second generation of his family that didn't learn the culture, didn't learn the language. It was maybe his 5th time where he went down. He ran out of oxygen because, you know, these guys with their depth gauges, they don't really know what's going on. And so they just, oh, I got no oxygen. You know, he's like, what do I do? Run out of air or else risk getting the bends. And instead of running out of air and dying, he just had to come to the surface. He's paralyzed from the pico down, and it's more of like a sense of balance.
To myself, you know what? I'm gonna move to Hilo. I settled down, I found a house, and I found a school for my son then, and I found a place down at Kealia Beach Park. I parked my car, grabbed my wheelchair out, and I decided to do some really weaving, yeah? Until when spirit can talk to me, when kūpuna spirit can talk to me underneath the lauhala tree. It's the first time when kūpuna spirit, yeah? And the voice come touch me and talk to me about, boy, make Hawaiian drums. You Hawaiian. Younger days I got taught, yeah, back maybe when I was like 14, 15 years old. My older hana brothers got into the hula halau, yeah, so there was all drummers and fire dancers. Then when I got into the halau, we was part of the drummers too, and then we didn't get to learn how to make one drum. So we learned how to make drums from John DeLeary. Because he was the expert and the pro for Hawaiian drum making, Polynesian drum making, and Polynesian show. I don't know how much drums are made. Until today, I mean, sometimes I could say like 4,000. From lapaiki, kilo, to knee drum, punius, to hula drums, to ceremony drums, to different height of drums, yeah? And from day one, yeah, I never did stop.
I look at accomplishments and my dad, I see these things as community changing type of accomplishment. You know, not like a personal one. Hey, cool, he has personal dreams and goals, but when I see him, he's not just my dad. He's like, wow, this real Hawaiian Kanaka who leads by example, and he's been hit with the hardest thing in life to take away his lower half of his body, but look at him go. And so he's accomplishing these like community changing things that, you know, inspire me as a man. growing up, I guess to serve the community, he woke me and my brother up every morning at 4 o'clock to go lay net at 4 miles. And by the time we were out and the fish was in the cooler, he would be waving down the kūpuna in the neighborhood and 3, 4 fish in a bag, and here you go. Just take them. This is to eat because I know you guys cannot swim and I know you guys don't have the skills, and you know, look at my boys. They can catch more fish than we can eat, and he would feed them. And so I think just his foundation of being one probably the best dad I ever will come across is, you know, like inspiring to me as a dad.
We're getting older, yeah. And, you know, our young time, we had the energy, boost energy. If people don't do these things, yeah, you're never gonna find Hawaiian arts. You're never gonna find Hawaiian artists, yeah. Nothing Hawaiian, dead, died, fade away. I know that much artists pass away, but they only will share it with that much people with their art piece, yeah. But who will carry on with their art piece, lauhala weaving, yeah, kukui nutshell making. You don't practice that, you don't do it, you lose it.
The world nowadays, I don't know where all the good men went. You know, if we look around the planet, it's just like, man, corruption, and nobody does really anything because nobody feels responsibility over you, you know? But my dad, for some reason, he's like, nah, I'll take everybody in my community, the high performers, low performers, everyone, you know? And I think that's the kind of men that change the world and inspire us to all be better people.
I guess I should begin with telling you where I was born. Grew up in Kealia. My first 8 years of my life was spent in Kealia along the beach. During the day, the ocean was our friend. All of the little ponds were our babysitters. And then in the evenings, being able to go out and gather pipipi, which is the little black periwinkles. And then at night, the kupe'e. Then tagging along with my dad when he went along the shoreline to throw net. Of course, we were told, myself and my brothers, that you never walk ahead. You always stay in the background and you only come forward when he's thrown his net, he's taken it out of the water, and then it's time to unload the catch. And then we got to carry the bag of fish. But then we could sit in the pond, and if we're lucky and the fish was still alive, or one or two, we could play with them. Of course, then we ate them later. Grandpa even had a large, what we called a big old icebox. It's like a big wooden chest that was insulated, and all the fishermen would bring their catch, and then we would load up Grandma's little pickup truck, which was outfitted so she could take the fish off to Hilo, to the auction block, to Suisan, which is still in existence. And if we were lucky, we could tag along. It was fun. Probably around anywhere from 3 to 4 hours, what with a load. But for us as kids, there was always the stop at Hongo's store in Volcano because we could get goodies. And one of the things they always carried was boiled eggs. So we could get a boiled egg along with whatever else we could convince Grandma to spend her money on. And then finish the journey into Hilo, get all of the fish unloaded, and then load up the pickup with ice blocks, basically, to get back to Ho'okena.
Auntie Shirley's ohana, the cho ohana and the kauhaihao ohana has been a huge connection and family from, the Honanao area. The cowboys, the coffee pickers, the fishermen in this garden, she's been here for a long time.
Dear God, thanks for this wonderful day that you've given us. Please watch over us and bless us. Keep us safe. Please bless the hands that made the food today. Bless everyone that's here and everyone that's away. Please give them guidance and blessings, Lord. In your name we pray.
Amen.
My homemade. It's hard with love. You had to add the egg. Yeah, with the love, with the butter. Yeah, it's scratch. And then she had the spoon with the poodle.
My kumu lauhala, was my grandmother. On our property in Kealia, we had 3 lauhala trees, and Grandma would weave when she was not busy with other things. My job initially was to gather the leaves, but the tree was cared for in such a way that the leaves hardly ever fell to the ground. We would take it off the tree before it hit the ground. And so I still have that where I prefer to take leaves from the tree rather from the ground. And so the gatherer was me and my brothers, if they weren't being kolohe.
I think this will wind up being, I'll take it for this.
And that went on for a number of years. And when I was about, probably between 9 and 10, Grandma, weaving every day to supplement the family income, decided, I guess, that I was ready to learn. Because she was a hat weaver. Weaving showed me what she wanted me to do. And that was basically the crown of the papali, which is just this part right there. And that's all she would let me do repetitively. Every time I sat down, all I did was the crown. And then several years later, I guess she must have felt that I was doing it well enough that I could learn to do the brim, the ekeu. By the time I was in high school, nearly out of high school, she decided, okay, you can learn to do the very beginning, the piko, and then the pa, the very top of the hat. So by the time I got out of high school, I got that part mastered. But it's still the most difficult part of the entire papali is that piko and pa. Just have to take your time and be sure to do it right, because if it's not correct, it has to come apart and go back to where the area was and then start all over.
Have any of you ladies done bracelets? A while. Okay. That's probably the simplest and the quickest item to do with little time. But it's easy to take it with you. The back of a knife, or as I'm doing with the scissors. So by doing what I did, it helps you soften it.
It almost feels like leather.
To weave with, yeah.
Being raised by my grandmother, and when I got married, she told my husband, "You will live with me, with us." So my grandfather and grandmother kept us on, and we lived with them all those years. And then Grandpa passed, my husband passed, and then got all these little guys. That was probably the most difficult part of my life, was when he passed. However, good things come from difficulty. And, well, my 4th child passed at the age of 15. But I realized that we are quite resilient, that We can overcome difficulties. All we have to do is work at it. I love this garden. I had a little granddaughter who was probably about 8 at the time. And one of her aunts worked with the Historical Society and picked Kule from school and brought her over to the garden. Kule just enjoyed being here, that she was here every Wednesday, as much as she could possibly do. She passed at age 12. But she left that legacy behind, and I just felt the need to continue what she had done and just carry on and do as much as possible for the garden, because she loved it so much.
Not just the past loss that she's had very recent loss. 3 very close family members, and this woman, I called her, she came, stopped by, and still is just so strong and just carries a lot of weight and stuff on her back, but you would never have been able to tell, because she just really powers through with her grace and everything, and still with a smile on her face, and still coming to check up on me and the kids and the garden and how things are going, you know. So yeah, she is an amazing, amazing woman.
I believe we all have something to contribute. Up to the day we pass, we have something to contribute. Hopefully it's all good. And if it's not, hopefully whoever we've been nasty to will forgive us. But there oftentimes is something good out of what's bad. It hurts me sometimes when I say we go out to dinner or lunch, and I notice people walk in, sit down, and out comes their phone. They're not talking to each other. Conversation is so important. Talk about what we're doing and the things that we can share in our everyday life. Put the device down and spend time with each other. Don't make that little device your focal point. The person in front of you should be your focal point.
This saddle when I was poor, 1963. It's Makuli, this saddle, yeah. Same speed, same, all bus are broken down, but we're okay. I was brought up on plantation, no girl. Going on plantation, but yet raised up on the ranch was two different, dialect. We have the Aloha Hawaiian or waʻa today. So Sora was brought up like that. My uncle was top crane operator for the plantation those days. Growing up till I was 6 years old, they moved to Pahu. Then from Pahu, learning about horses. Worked with my dad, uncles, and cousins. My great tutu was cowboy. My grandfather wasn't, but his brother was. And then my granduncle was the one that taught my dad how to cowboy. My tutu man, my grandfather made horses for the Hind family, but plow horses. They planted corn in order to take care of the purebreds Makaisai Puanahulu.
And he made plow horses, learn them, wagon horses. And then my dad was brought up by his uncle, Kealia is my granduncle. We used to walk from Pahu down with Grandma. We get 7 of us kūpunas with her, and we would walk down like about 5:30, 6 o'clock when it's school. When it came about 10 o'clock, was halfway down. Grandma would put us inside a puka. We would wait until like 5 o'clock, 5:30, then we continue our trip down to Keaukaha, where it was much cooler for us. From Keaukaha, from Pu'u was like 13 miles. I think from Pu'u was like 11 miles, no? When you look with your eye, it looks near. But when you walk with all the haluas, what I mean halua is the halo. The kulapa, the rise, the pahua, the flat, no? We fished down there because we had a local down there, Keaukaha Fish Pond. My two men, they're the ones started the fish pond down in Keaukaha. Back in the 1700s, I can't go back as far as that because growing up was there already because everything in the Maka'ao was all coral, not concrete. Growing up in Pu'u and Pu'u, Dad used to haul out cattle, haul out sheep cattle out of Keaukaha. And that's when I was about 6, 7. He put me on his shipping horses that he took down to train for pull cattle out into the water. And then he made me swim, sit on a saddle, and he just let the horse treat. And from there, until I started drinking salt water, I let her go to Pamo. I started down swimming back inside. But he knew how the current would just take my backside inside, so everything was okay. That's how I learned. We hunt, we fish, we work all together, no? Back in 1975, it was 225,000 acres. They ran about 50,000 head of cattle. That's all, mother cows, bull batter, marketing and everything. Horses, they ran about almost 600 head of horses back in those days. We had about 30 cowboys, 30 to 40. I worked for Richard Smart and ride for Park Ranch Brand. Here, this P on my hat. The nice part, he took care of us. I worked for that man. I was sent in Kau, I was sent in Kohala, and then I ended up Makahalau, Mana Division for 19 and a half years. And I stayed up there, and everything was all like how Richard wanted the ranch to be run. Everybody that we worked together those years really loved what we did. I mean, from the heart. And, I can name you some good names that, that we worked together. The old timers, those were the old guys. Walter Steven, Carly Steven, 2 brothers. One, Carly Steven, Mana, Walter Steven, Keamoku. They were the supervisors. And then Yoshikawa Moro Kohala. They were the lulas. What I mean lulas that time in Hawaiian, they were the foundation. We were like the pillars, the follows. The ohanas, like I said, the Assams, the Kanihos, the Yamaguchis, all. Plenty Japanese family, plenty Portuguese family, the Quintels, all the Nobrigas. They were good cowboys. No, it was just Hawaiian cowboy. When one Portuguese cowboy, Filipino, was all put together as paniolo, no?
Working as a cowboy, you don't make a lot of money. So, a sense of appreciation, second to none, was how he raised us. We heard these words uttered from as far back as I can remember as a child, mahalo ika mea loa. And that means to appreciate what you have.
Everybody enjoyed. And then we shared, BS, we pauhana, we drink beer. Hey, about you, hey, today, we brand, or we win off, and when we drive. Everything was, work together, no? And then when I came, hey, everything in Hawaiian. Henry Assam, Jiro Yamaguchi, Walter, oe kulai, knock down. Oe kaula, you going rope, you don't want to go rope the calf pool to the fire. Oe okilaho, you go and castrate. Oi kun, you go and brand. Oi lao, you go and inoculate the calves. Yeah. Grandma them was our language. They were our tongue. She like grandma they will pay me cake. She no go tell me pay oi cake. You go pay me. She going to tell you, answer back, make it. Beautiful when I say that. Everybody is so accustomed with pay oi, make it. But when I say, pay me cake, oi mau. See, as another Hawaiian word say, I'm okay. Oi mau means that how we left the last time, and we like this again, and we share it. Exactly the same. Pay me, oi mau. See, Oyamau is more beautiful. It's more contact, more connection, more that where you see and, thank you, Hemene cake, Oyamau, likapu, same. Likapu means same like her, Omau, same thing. That's one of our old tradition that people when share like that, and I tell them, as you connect, you connecting from the heart, And then when you answer, it's how you receive and accept, And then in the end, we all appreciate each other because tomorrow another day, if no happen, aloha no. But every day we make sure that our words that we connect.
I think my dad's legacy is Aloha Aina. And that word is so apparent today, used everywhere, which is good, and it should be. But the way he teaches us and continues to teach us and have taught us, I think again is that succession to know your Aina in a way. What we say, what they say, ma'a, helea ma'a. You become so accustomed to your Aina, your land, your ocean. You love it. You Aloha Aina. You look at it. You feel for it deeper. You see it beyond this beautiful beach. We're able to see places that you never even know existed. To ride deep into the kohalas and be above the valleys of like Honokane Nui, Honokane Iki, and you're kind of looking out and down to them, and the ocean is outside of that. The vantage points that we were afforded.
When I come down by Pu'uiki, and then when I look, I can see home, Hualalai, Mauna Loa, and Ikaika up here, Mauna Kea. And then when I stay right on Ola, it just shows everything that, it's right there. You ever drove up on this Koala Mountain, and then got that mountain before you reach, you turn up, clear day, just park, and you just look and you see the huts right there, And you're thankful, wow, I get to be all on this place. I can be on one kulapa, which means a high rise, and I can look down. When I work up Kemole, I look down, I can see Waimea. I can see down quite high. I look onto, I can see all the way maybe Waikoloa. It's something that the pier every day that you're thankful you can see. If I work in the back of the mountain, Humula coming out to Hopawai, Pukala, then I can look down, I see Hilo, all the way outside towards Keaukaha,
Dad affords us these opportunities to Aloha Aina in that way, to not just know that pu'u, perhaps by its name. Oh yes, you know its name, but you know who and what that pu'u is, because your body has physically been on it. You have seen the dirt from it. You have ridden down that steep slope. You know how steep Pu'ukawaiwai actually is because you are on the back of your horse coming down. So that kind of Aloha Aina was to know your places like that. And know them intimately beyond their name, right? You look deeper into their name. Why that place named that? Why Kalaimano named Kalaimano? Make sure you know why, that these are treasures. What was handed to me by him and by others are these gems, like precious gems that need to be tended to and cared for as they need to be, as they should be. So when I pass that forward, you're going to assume this in the same way, that it is a treasure, and you got to care for it in a manner that it deserves. A clear and direct path is there for you to tread. Much is at stake, my brothers, my sisters, my children. Much will be lost if we but turn our cheek to assuring succession. I can but hope that these words of mine have potentially made aware in our consciousness that the children we raise today will someday become the kūpuna.
When I screwed up, he made me walk home, like from here, and we live like 7 miles away, and I was in second grade, you know. I can run away real easy. He's in a wheelchair. Mana, come here, grab that note. I jump in the car, and he grabs my shirt. Get your ass outside, you walking home. He throws me outside the car, and I'm like, what? And he goes, follow me. And he drives on the side of the road all the way to Chong Street.
I still work like I did 40 years ago. I fix fence, I can put posts in the ground. I could be 90 years old. I do what I did 40 years ago. Not easy though. You find ways to put a post in the ground. Before you could lift the post up, dig a hole, put the post up, throw them in the ground. Now you take your half a day to dig one hole before I could dig 20.
The thing about shopping way back then is because you only get to go to the market maybe once a month, you really stocked up on everything. So to be able to get Spam, lucky Spam, corned beef, that was another item. And then rice by the bags full, 100-pound bags. You can't find 100-pound bags anymore, especially in those flour sack type bags.
I moved to Honolulu with my older sister. I wanted to go on the beach, play, be a beach boy, kind of like surf, swim, and all that. So that's what I did. When I met my wife, then I wanted to get out of Honolulu. Then I brought her here, and she kind of liked the place, you know, so she moved here.
This is my working area when I was working Park Ranch a long time. But I can share with you guys. There's one history about here. We got Mauna Kea dirt on top, Ulalai dirt, Mauna Loa, Mauna Kea and Kohala dirt on top, no? So every place I work, the dust like down South Point, stay on top here, you know, all the way outside, you know, Kapapala, or out down, you know, Kohala, Pawaina, Panika, or down Honoka. At least get something come home with me, you know?